great Sunday in terms of being able to watch and see the difference of those two halves, the consistency we had in the second half and what that looked like, you know, as a team. Offensively, we did a good job putting together some drives, and a lot of those drives had, you know, a lot to do with being successful in the money downs, whether it be a third down or fourth down situations. We were much more consistent in the red zone, you know, 4 red zone TDs. There's a 13-play drive in there too that was huge to see the whole team come together in terms of the offense, and a lot of guys contributed to that. Fourth down, some third down plays in there, so we're excited to build off of that. Really fired up for the offense and what they're doing right now, the coaching staff and the players, and again, what we were able to do in the second half. So this week will be huge for us as we continue to build. Defensively, we played in the second half like we practiced. It did take us a little while to get going, but it was awesome to see the guys in the second half really dial in into the pre-snap and execute, you know, technically and fundamentally like we've been talking about, and really do an unbelievable job holding the opponent to 0 points in the second half, getting off the field on third downs, fourth downs, playing with a passion. A bunch of guys jumped in there and made plays, whether it was in the front or in the secondary. And so, you know, that was one half that now we can build off of as a whole team. We can carry that over. Guys are excited about that. They see it. They realize, you know, that the preparation's done a certain way and there's a level of consistency of what it can look like. So we're extremely excited to get back on the field tomorrow and get going.
After you guys looked at the film and kind of analyzed, you know, play calls, the reps, all that, how do you guys think it worked? It went in terms of dividing up the reps at quarterback there.
Quarterback position.
Yeah,
and we knew going into it, you know, there was a plan. You know, TG's going to start, but how we can use Maddox in certain situations that he's shown to be effective, which he was in the game. There were some critical third down long plays that we were able to execute. One went for a long touchdown to EMAC, another one Mad Dog actually ran. So it was awesome to see that. They both do certain things really well, but they both also do the same things really well too. So it was cool to see how the staff was able to put that together, and obviously we took care of the ball better in the second half, so we were able to sustain drives, keep the ball moving, and how we were able to use both our quarterbacks and really, you know, all situations. It built flow for the team. Felt like we really found our stride, and that's why I said it's exciting to see as we move from game to game. As we always talk about, we're going to face different defensive structures, different defensive plans. The awesome part about this is we can put ourselves in a position to be the best we can, depending upon what we're getting from a defense. I think one of the big things that goes along with it as well is that there's nothing that exemplifies the teamwork it took the other night. These two guys, it's just how the two quarterbacks celebrated together. When one led a drive and scored, the other one was out there. The other one led a drive and scored, the other one was out there to congratulate them, to work together as a team. This team cares about each other, passion. Obviously, you don't do what you do. You don't do what we did the other night if that wasn't the case. So it's exciting to build forward off of it. Again, it's going to take a lot of hard work and preparation this week. We got another, you know, the Mountain West is full of tough opponents week in and week out, and go on the road this week.
You obviously have the plan, you know it, we don't, you know, and all that in fancy. We just look at who plays and we don't know the reason why all the time. But some of the in-drive, when you would switch on a third down here a couple of times, how do you evaluate letting a guy kind of have the drive versus that play works better for this guy? Like, what's the, I guess, pros and cons of like mid-drive changing quarterbacks?
Yeah, so we've studied this. I mean, this isn't something that, you know, we've done it here before. We've used two quarterback systems. We've studied it so that we did have a good plan in terms of there's certain drives. Obviously, TG's going to start the game, and he's going to be the focal point of it, but depending upon how the game goes, we got behind in the first half, right? Similar to the previous game when Mad Dog was able to go in there and move the ball down the field in the pass game. The game will call for what these guys do well. There's certain situations within a drive that we feel, you know, the team will be better. You know, we can execute higher. Maybe TG's in there. Maybe if Mad Dog's in there. And that's the cool part about it, is getting that feel as we go along. there's been many successful teams that have used two quarterbacks, teams that have gone on to accomplish their goals at the end of the year. And so as we move along here, this being really the second week, that's why I say it's exciting. We have an idea of what it looks like based off of our initial plan. For the most part, it played out as Bush prepared it and brought it together, and the rest of the staff through the course of the week. And again, it may not look the exact same every single week, and that's a benefit to us too, so that there's not tendencies in which each guy is doing.
You talked about studying it, but what did you learn Saturday night that maybe you didn't know or didn't validate, coming into this game in terms of what you can use moving forward with the two quarterback system?
With the two quarterbacks? Yeah. Well, Mike, I mean, the long run on the 3rd and long, right? Mad Dog can run too. That's the nice part about it. TG made some throws as well. The things that we saw is both guys are capable of executing the offense. In some pieces of the offense, certain situations, we've been with these guys as we were talking about. We're there at practice. We analyze. We have all the numbers. Some have just been a little efficient, but they're both really good players. We're very fortunate to have both these young men. Not only can we do this because of their abilities, their talents, but because of who they are too, and their humility and how they work together.
You kind of touched on it, but there's no animosity between them, even though they're competing for reps. What does that say about them as leaders and as people?
Yeah, there's no doubt. I think that's a huge part of being able to do this. I thought TG handled it exceptionally well. And, in here for us as a program, Eric McAllister got player of the game, as an offensive player, but it very well could have been TG. Mad Dog gets freshman player of the week. That's what we want. We want the production. We talked about early on in the season about developing this team that we knew we had some young players. We knew we were going to need to be able to develop the depth, in all three phases. And as we've gone through the beginning of the season, we've been able to do that. We've also talked about knowing and our personnel and what they do best. We felt like we did a really good job with that, as an offense and as a defense. We had guys step into the game plan in the second half this past week and step into roles that they necessarily didn't practice. They stepped up. They did a good job. That's what we need to continue to happen. That's football. It's next man up. And, just in particular to the quarterbacks, again, these are two tremendous young men that come from great families. And so the values that they have, the character that they have, allows us to be able to do this.
Just to confirm, this is your quarterback system. This is your offensive system moving forward as we say now?
We plan to continue to use them both. TG is our starter. We plan to use, Mad Dog in certain situations, and we will continue on with it as we move forward.
As you said, they obviously bought in and stuff, but was there a process to it like earlier in the week? Because the quarterback position is unique. There's only one of them gets to be on the field at the same time. So when you have to relinquish snaps, I'm sure there is like a little bit of a mental hurdle you have to get over. So, what was that kind of process like?
It always starts with great communication, and that starts with the plan and being able to communicate the plan. And I'll say this about, how Bush and the offensive staff, how we handled it, is just making sure that we in here understand what the plan is and how we're going to do this. It's not easy. You're right. It's not easy. It's never easy. But again, when you got the young men, that we have, when it was laid out and the way we practiced it throughout the course of the week, obviously as it came together. In the first half, we were moving the ball. We just gave it up. Okay, would have got to see a little bit more of it too. So there's things that we could control that we can continue to fix. But as we see, we come together and we had, the best offensive game that we've had. We really needed it to win that game.
You're a defensive guy. How much more difficult do you think it is to prepare for two than one?
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's again, Mad Dog being able to run the ball doesn't just limit us to one thing when he goes in the game. TG, has done some things in the past game, particularly well. And how we continue to build that, it can become difficult on the defense. Again, there's been very successful teams that have used two quarterbacks throughout the course of a whole year. We've done it here before. Again, it's the exciting part is we got two guys that are capable and that do certain, do a lot of things well, and in particular just a little more efficient in certain areas than the other. and we're just grateful to have them low.
You mentioned in your opening statement about the defense getting some confidence at the second half. I mean, they were getting criticized. I mean, the stats are what they are. It's been a rough go. But for them to have and I know it's not perfect just because they had one half, but I mean, to do what they did in the second half and be able to kind of know what's in there now when they need a big third down stop and all that. I mean, what does that do moving forward? Because I know everyone's talking about the quarterbacks, but I mean, you may look at the defense as a bigger reason for some of the early season struggles.
And we, to know what's inside, to know what you're capable of building, it always starts from within. And it was just awesome to see the coaches, the players on the defense side of the ball, obviously both sides of the ball, but in particular what you're talking about, the defense side of the ball, to see how they work together. We did make some adjustments. We had to make some personnel adjustments within the course of the game, and to be able to see the players come out in the second half and really play the way they practiced last week, that is huge. Now, it's not going to happen again this week. You know, we've got to build on what we did in terms of our preparation, how we study the film, how we study our plan, how we study our opponents, you know, how we take the work to the field and bring it to life and have a good time doing it. That's what the defense did during the course of last week. They played with passion and had fun out there, and there's no other way to do it. The work's got to be done. The preparation has to be to a certain standard, but the fun of which these guys had last week, we can continue to build off that.
You look at the first half, Jevin averaged 15.1 yards per attempt. In the second half, 12 of 22 for 83 yards, I think 4 yards per attempt. How were you able to make him so uncomfortable? Because he was moving around a lot during the second half.
Well, there's a couple things that go into that. They're coming off a bye week. So, as you always say, you got to work your way through the script, right? The team has 2 weeks to prepare. There's a fair amount of stuff. They got good coaches. They got personnel. They got a good quarterback. And so working through that opening script, you know, presented some challenges, gave us some explosive plays, some things that we even still control. We could have played better. We could have done this. We come down to the things we talk about all the time. Okay, identifying formations, making sure we're leveraging them. And that starts with how we communicate. I feel like in the second half we did a much better job of that. And then what we always talk about, those fundamentals and techniques come into play that make the scheme. Now I'm not going to say that the defense coaches didn't do a great job making some adjustments. You know, after seeing the initial plan there at halftime, and the players did a great job of executing those in terms of certain personnels and formations and how we adjusted a few things and added some calls, and the players went out there and did an unbelievable job executing.
How great was it to see some of those, you know, newer guys in the backfield like Zion, like Ty, like Amari, and, you know, kind of really have some success there in the second half?
Yeah, we need that. You know, that's where we're talking about building this depth. Zion came in, you know, he came into the season, you know, as a backup, and now because of injury, he's started the last couple games. Mario, you know, what he's able to do on that interception is growth. We got to continue to grow. We got to continue to be consistent. For new guys into the program, there's a lot to learn, and it's not just on the field. It's the things that we got to do off the field to be successful on the field. And guys are starting to realize and see that and find their rhythm, find their way, and that's exciting to see. You know, it'll be good to see, you know, guys like Ty who have played a lot of football. He's a true freshman, but he's played a lot of football at this point. Going on game number 7. Ty's an extremely mature young man with a huge, you know, huge football IQ. He's played a lot of snaps now. His experience is starting to pay off.
Colorado State looks like they really throw the ball well. What
200 games. Congrats, we appreciate you.
What do you think about their pass game?
Yeah.
Orton as a receiver, what makes him special? What is going to be the challenge?
Yeah, I mean, Torrey's been successful. You know, for the last few years, he's been a huge target in this system. Not only that, he's a really good returner too. He's shown to be explosive in the return game. But they got other wide receivers as well. They got a tight end that's been productive. The quarterback's got plenty of weapons in the passing game. You know, this offensive system is shown to be able to throw the ball year in and year out. So we're going to need that momentum coming off of the second half of last week, and how we build on that, and how we use that experience to grow ourselves forward, because we've got another huge challenge here coming up. We face teams that have thrown the ball pretty well this season, and those experiences, whether it be on the field or off the field, in our preparation, us as coaches, and how we game plan and how we know our personnel and what they do well, that's going to play huge into this game on defense.
How concerning are Ashton's fumbles?
You know, he jumped back in there in the second half was a huge part of us being able to do what we did the other night. We believed in him. That's why we put him back in there. We're going to work through it. He's taking, you know, obviously Ashton take accountability and know and understand what we need to do to be better. He'll be better. Full faith in him. Again, at halftime there was not 1 ounce of doubt who needed to go back into the backfield and be able to establish the run game, and he did that.
Marco, no, I'm sorry.
He hit a long one, and again, he had a 4th down run on a long drive where he jumped over someone and landed on the ground, bursted. 2 or 3 guys tried to strip the ball from him. He did a phenomenal job holding on to that ball. So excited for him.
Marco Notarini is a guy who stepped in and has played really well this season. As a former linebacker yourself, I'm sure you have a keen eye for identifying traits in linebackers. What have you seen out of him that's making him so successful?
You know, at the linebacker position, it really starts off the field. There's a lot of preparation that goes into it, you know, in terms of leading the defense. Marco's an extremely smart young man. He is very organized off the field. Coach D does a really good job getting them organized, that linebacker group. There's some young guys playing in there. But the way those guys prepare, the way they practice, they're some of our better practice players, and it shows on the practice field because of how they prepare. And then, you know, Marco's got a great feel. He's got good read and react, whether it's in the run game or the pass game. That's a huge part of playing linebacker. It's the ability to read and react. And then obviously when the time calls, to be able to create some pressure on the quarterback as a blitzer.
Is that instinctual, or as you mentioned, is that something he's learned over the years?
The ability to read and react definitely comes down to instinct and your football IQ, and then allows you to build on top of that. And those 2 things, as a linebacker, and to be honest with you, as a safety, those are critical components of being able to play those positions.
After the first 2 games, talking with Ahmed, you didn't have any sacks, had a tough time generating pressure, and he said the North Dakota game was a big confidence boost because he finally got a couple of sacks. He almost needed that production to know the work that he was putting in was the correct work, and eventually the payoff would be there. He has 4 sacks in the last 3 games, and the only game he didn't have sack, he forced a fumble that, you know, a big play for you guys in San Diego State game. How much are you starting to see, you know, Ahmed really start to come on?
Yeah, Ahmed, and we're going to need him to continue on that. We talk about what we did in the second half in terms of the coverage and what we're able to hold the quarterback to. It's the defense working together. It's being able to get the quarterback off the spot, create pressure. It's not always about getting a sack, but creating pressure. Yes, we want to get more sacks, but the things that Ahmed is learning with the rest of the edge group in terms of what are the important things that go into pass rush, the consistency of which we do those, because we got some guys that have the ability. It's about how we use our ability. You know, this is a game of angles. It comes down to angles. To be honest with you, pass rush is much how you get off the ball and get going. This team we're playing has a really good edge rusher. He gets off the ball and he goes. And so the things that we're doing at the edge position, let alone within the defensive front, to be able to build that understanding, to be able to increase the ability week in, week out, let alone day to day, on how we're developing those guys as an individual and how they take it into the team periods is going to be a huge part for our defense and our success.
You brought up Kamara, 9.5 sacks in 5 games. How good is he?
Yeah, he's been that way for a few years now. He's pretty consistent on the edge. Again, very explosive player. He's a guy that you got to be aware of. Leads the nation in sacks. He's also caused a few fumbles. So he's proven to be a very, very productive player, whether it's in the run game or obviously creating pressure on the quarterback.
Excuse me, you guys had some defensive starters that went out in the second half. Some did come back, but not all of them. Obviously, it looked like Simpson was playing edge at one point. Were there some other maybe adjustments that you made that went unnoticed?
Yeah, without a doubt, there's some things going on in the defensive front, and that's what I'm talking about. You know, the way we had to adjust in certain fronts and take personnel and make adjustments at halftime, especially in the defensive front, not only into our, you know, how we were using our personnel, but in relation to the offensive personnel and what we were getting from their game plan. Guys like Andrew stepped up. Guys like Jaden Burgess stepped up and were able to get things done in the game and do it very well that we necessarily, they didn't do in practice. But again, when we get to this point in the season, we build a level of consistency with fundamentals and techniques. It's on us as coaches to be able to make those adjustments and make it very easy for them. Like, hey, this is the same as this. This is the same as this. You can get this done. You're going to go in here and you're going to knock this out. We had guys that jumped in because we got a little light in the defensive front at the end of that game that jumped in and played positions they didn't, but because they're understanding and paying attention not only in the meeting rooms but in walkthroughs, they understand what the other players are doing around them, what their responsibilities are. So we were able to make some of those adjustments. And the key point of the game, those last couple drives that were, 2-minute drive situations and sub package.
Kind of an off-the-wall question, but when your playing days kind of was the start of the NCAA football video game frenzy. Did you ever play as yourself in those video games?
I do. It's actually DVD, CD days, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different back then. You know what? That video game was one of the video games we all probably played the most. We played with everybody, but of course we played with Boise State back in the day. That's cool that they're bringing it back. That's why you're asking. I think it's awesome for the players. I think it's great for the players. It can win away because of the money and what they're making off the game and the players not getting it. But I think that's cool for college football players to be able to have that experience to, be in a game. It's hard work to be a college football player. And all the guys always get to be on the field. There's only so many starters and guys that are on it, but it's an awesome deal for college student athletes to be on that game and to have it.
How accurately did they usually portray you?
I don't know. That's a long time.
How many times I feel like I've heard it with recruits though. How many times have you heard the story of like, oh yeah, I played with them because they got the blue field on the NCAA video game? Like I don't know how many times I've heard a recruit say that about this place.
That happens a lot. I mean, we're starting to get a little bit away from that generation because the game's been gone for a little bit now, but that is definitely a big part. That blue field, is a big part of college football. It symbolizes a whole lot that we're very grateful to be a part of. That's one example where it does come up, where it has come up in the past, is on the video game. It's a cool deal that they're bringing that back.
Speaking of recruiting, we know you had some recruits this past weekend. We saw some on social media posting the light show and stuff and what it was like. Just to have in the middle of the game, the ability to do the wave with the lights going out and what was going on between the third and fourth quarter. I know it's a thing for the fans, but when it comes to recruiting as well, to have that kind of atmosphere now and a sellout crowd, what's the new game day atmosphere, I guess, doing to help in recruiting are going to do?
You know what, first and foremost, for our fans, for Bronco Nation, who has shown tremendous support through all the years, it was awesome to see. It was one of our largest crowds in history the other night. As we said after the game, they're a big part of that victory. It was loud in the stadium. The environment of which our athletic department has brought to the game day experience is a big part of that. It's pretty cool to see what they've been able to do. And they keep trying to find ways to get better and do it better. If it's good, it can be better. And that's the approach that they take. And it's pretty cool to see, how the athletic department has built that. For us here, it is, to be able to have a home field environment where you get to play in that, the hard work that goes into all this for the young men, for the staff being a part of this, it makes it worthwhile. But yeah, it has obviously an effect in recruiting too, to know that you're be able to come to a place and have that type of environment for all your home games, to be able to have fans that support like that. That was a tremendous experience, all the way around for everybody the other night.
How much is Eric McAllister growing every week, and what is his ceiling?
Yeah, we continue to see him make some big time plays in critical situations. It's since probably about this time last year is really when it started to click for him. And again, people get to see what they do on the field, but it really clicked off the field when he made a decision that he was going to approach the game a certain way and how he was going to prepare and maximize his opportunities that he was getting in the game. Because this time last year was just a little bit, right? It was probably 15 plays maybe but he started taking advantage of those 15 plays. You know, maybe the ball came to him 2 or 3 times. He built on his preparation process and how he was going to study and prepare, and eventually, you know, what you put into anything is what you get out of it. And so now we are where we're at now, and we can't stop that. We got to continue to build. You know, he's going to see good corners. He's going to see good corners this week as the rest of our wide receivers. And we've got to be able to have an impact on the game. So that's why I say we got to continue building on our process and preparation, not only in the film but how we practice and how detailed we are. How we come off the ball with speed, and he's done a really good job of that throughout the course of the year, and we just got to keep doing it.
And what do you think about Dirk Cutter being on the?
You guys seem, you guys are shocked. That was news too. That'll be awesome. It's getting a little cold. Weather's getting cold, so he's probably not playing as much golf anymore. But no, that's awesome. Coach has obviously a tremendous mind, and has an eye for the game. You can see things, so that's pretty cool.
What's your guys'? I mean, last year obviously you saw each other every day. What's it like now for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, he'll shoot some text messages and pop in, you know, when he is here in Boise. So it's good to see him. Glad he's keeping busy. Again, he's an extremely hard worker. He's got a tremendous mind, so it's not shocking that, you know, for him to continue to be a part of the game.
How impressive has James Ferguson Reynolds been this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think our net the other night was 47 yards, which is an extremely impressive number. We've got to continue to be able to use that as a weapon for our team. Field position in this game is a big part of it, and it comes down to the other guys on the field too as well. You know, on that punt team in terms of how they protect and how they cover. But it's pretty fun to see week in and week out the different things that James is able to do as a punter. We just want to continue to see him grow and find ways that, you know, that he can change the game.
Colorado State's punter is also from Australia. What do you think about that trend where there's kind of an international pipeline at that position now?
Yeah, just the nature of the rugby punt and what you can do. It's been probably a decade now that punt formations have shifted more to a shield or various formations, when a decade ago it was what we called the pro punt with 2 wings and a fullback sitting back there, a PP sitting back there in the middle of the formation, and it was all pocket punts. As the game has grown and expanded, it's opened the window for punters that can do various things besides pocket punt, and that's where you see, you know, a lot of young men get an opportunity, you know, come from Australia or other places that can do these things. They grow up doing it, right? It's a little bit different in terms of the sport, and they play growing up.
Can you see like the like come on for a guy like Mario McCoy, and you know, coming from a GC program, you're obviously given a lot more at this level. Probably a lot more is also expected of you at this level. So when and kind of how can you see that light come on?
Yeah, we're hoping that we continue to progress with that. He's very capable. You're 100% right. There's a lot more that's expected at this level than the junior college level. There's a lot more resources and time and things that we can use to our benefit, and how we use those things to, number one, to grow ourselves off the field, let alone to how we grow and develop ourselves, you know, on the field. But I don't think it's necessarily junior college either. I mean, it's you know, just coming to this program. You know, Biggs is a good example too. And Biggs' first year here too, he really learned that. And then last year, he did an unbelievable job. He's one of the guys that had the best processes in the building in terms of how he got himself ready for games day by day. You know, from the mental and physical aspect. And that's one thing that he shared as a senior last year, that he wanted to lead with the rest of the program. And so naturally, that's a big part. You know, whether you're coming from high school, you're coming from whatever other program, how you're able to come in and use resources to grow and develop yourself off the field, that then leads to on the field success.
I don't know how well you know his family, but they're very energetic in the stands, and they were on the video board. They got on the TV broadcast. One of his uncles brought like a live snake to the San Diego State game. Like, I don't know if you know about his background, but it seems like he's got a good group of following that's also enjoying him getting this chance to play at this level.
Yeah, it goes right in line with him. I mean, he's got charisma. He's got great personality, and again, he's finding his way here. After that game, after this past game, I mean, you you go in and you have some experience. There's some plays we need to clean up that he didn't make in the game, you know. But his ability then to go later in the game in certain coverages that were very similar and make a play and or get the interception, you know, within the game to grow, that shows a lot, you know, about where he's at, what he's doing, and now how we move forward this week and how he applies that to be better this week than he was last week is going to be the biggest part of it.
Going back to the two QB system, and you said you studied it a lot. I mean, I don't know if you want to give your sources away, but how do you study it? Where do you study it? Who do you go?
You take from examples, Mike, of people that have done it. But see, here's the thing about that too. Other people that have used two quarterback, I said we use two quarterback systems here, right? But you know, are they necessarily the same guys? That's the part that's different. So as you create the plan, you get an idea of, you know, what this looks like and how we can do it successfully, you know, to the level of which we did in the second half. But these are very specific to our players. This plan is very specific to our guys, and then specific to what it is that we're getting from the defense on a given week. It gives us options to do things. And again, in the first week that we did it, our offense, you know, especially in the second half, is extremely productive. And now the excitement is we get to build off of it from here.